Welcome to Everything Economics. We study microeconomics, macroeconomics, and every other type of economics. Hello, so this is part 4 of the lecture of elasticity and its application here. We will study about the determinants of price elasticity. This simply means that some products have high price elasticity of demand, which simply means that as the price of that product increases, the change in quantity demanded is much more than the change in price. I hope you remember the formula, which simply said that price elasticity of demand is equal to percentage change in quantity over percentage change in price. So if percentage change in quantity is 15% and percentage change in price is 10%, we get 1.5, which means elastic. And if the percentage change in quantity is 10% and the percentage change in price is 20%, then we get 0.5, which means inelastic. So why some goods have elastic demand and why some goods have inelastic demand? That's what we are going to study. And so let's continue with the lecture. Let me just remove this. Alright, so to learn the determinants of price elasticity, we look at a series of examples. Each compares two common goods. In each example, suppose the prices of both goods rise by 20%. We will compare two products and just suppose that the price increases of both goods by 20%. The goods for which QD falls the most in percentage terms has the highest price elasticity of demand. Which good is it? Why? That's what we are going to discuss in the examples. So the first example is example 1, Rice Krispies versus Sunscreen. The prices of both of these goods rise by 20%. For which good does quantity drop the most? Why? So we have two goods, Rice Krispies, Sunscreen, and the price of both has increased by 20%. So we have to find out which good for which good the quantity will drop the most. In the case of Rice Krispies, it has a lot of close substitutes. Close substitutes means that as you can also purchase similar products as Rice Krispies. So for example, instead of drinking Coca-Cola, you can drink Pepsi. That's a close substitute. In this case, Rice Krispies has Cap'n Crunch, Count, Chocola. These are Rice Krispies substitutes. So buyers can easily switch if the price rises. So if the price of Rice Krispies increase, buyers will purchase Cap'n Crunch or Count Chocola. In the case of sunscreen has no close substitutes. So consumers would probably not buy much less if its price rises. Sunscreen, which you use to protect your skin from sun rays, it does not have a lot of substitutes. So people would stick to it. People would still use it if its price increases or decreases significantly. So in this case, the lesson was price elasticity is higher when close substitutes are available. In this case, Rice Krispies had close substitutes, so its elasticity would be much higher than sunscreen. So that's the first lesson. When a product has more substitutes, its demand is more elastic. So that was the first example. Let's move on to the second example, blue jeans versus clothing. The prices of both goods rise by 20%. For which good does quantity drop the most and why? For a narrowly defined good such as blue jeans, there are many substitutes. So for blue jeans, when we just talk about blue jeans, which you wear every other day, I guess, so the other substitutes are khakis, shorts, and speedos. So if the price of blue jeans increases by 400%, let's say from $20 to $100, people would not purchase blue jeans because it's very expensive, and people would move to shorts or speedos or khakis. So blue jeans would be, yeah, you're right, elastic. In the case of clothes, there are fewer substitutes available for broadly defined goods. Clothes are broadly defined goods. So, I mean, it's a simple challenge. Can you think of a substitute for clothing other than living in a nudist colony? So No, there are no substitutes, so you have to wear clothes, right? So clothes has very less substitutes. So in this case, price elasticity is higher for narrowly defined goods than broadly defined goods. Blue jeans was narrowly defined good, clothing was broadly defined good. Blue jeans has a higher elasticity, uh, and clothing has very few, I mean, almost non-existent substitutes. So that's one of the reasons why blue jeans has higher elasticity when compared to a broadly defined good like clothes. So that's the second example. Let's move on to another example. Insulin, we discussed it before, but here we are comparing it with Caribbean cruises. Caribbean cruises are these beautiful ships which we go on and go on to Caribbean islands. And yeah, the prices of both of these goods rise by 20%. What happens to the quantity and why? To millions of diabetics, insulin is a necessity. A rise in its price would cause little or no decrease in demand. As I said before, insulin is a necessity, so people would still purchase it, would still buy it, even if the price was very high, or even if the price was very low, people would still buy it because it's a necessity. So its demand would be inelastic. Inelastic. How about the Caribbean cruise? A cruise is a luxury. If the prices rise, some people will forgo it. It's not a necessity. You don't need it to survive. It's just a luxury. You just go on cruises to freshen up your mind, to have fun, right? So if its price increases by 100%, and you would simply skip it, right? But insulin, you cannot skip it. You have to take it if you are a diabetic patient. So the lesson is, price elasticity is higher for luxuries than for necessities. The quantity would not change a lot in the case of necessities, but it can change a lot in the case of luxuries. So that's the third example. Let's move on to the fourth example, gasoline in the short run versus gasoline in the long run. The price of gasoline rises by 20%. Does quantity drop more in the short run or in the long run, and why? There is not much people can do in the short run other than ride the bus or carpool, right? So if the price of gasoline increases by 20%, you would still use it, right? Because you don't have other option, or you can take public transport, for example. But in the long run, people can buy smaller cars or live closer to where they work. In the long run, people can find substitutes of gasoline. Not really substitutes, but people can, in many countries, people use LPG or CNG in their cars. So in the long run, people can use those in their cars as well, but not in the short run. In the short run, people will still use the petrol, but or the gasoline. In the long run, people will buy smaller cars, or they might live closer to work. So the lesson is, price elasticity is higher in the long run than the short run. In this case, in the short run, price elasticity was less. In the long run, price elasticity is high. So it also depends on whether it's short run, we are talking about short run, or long run when we are talking about price elasticity of demand. So that was example 4. And now we will just talk about the summary, a short summary of what we learned. The price elasticity of demand depends on the extent to which close substitutes are available. That was example 1. Whether the good is a necessity or a luxury, example 2. How broadly or narrowly the good is defined, example 3. And the time horizon, elasticity is higher in long run than the short run, example 4. So that's it for this part. I hope you understood it. If you didn't understand it, you can just write the question in the comments. I will definitely answer. So see you guys in the next part.